Meet Kevin, Morgan Stanley, Zillow, and other real estate experts have given their opinion about the 2024 housing market. Will prices crash or will they skyrocket? What about demand? Well, today we're looking at what 10 of the biggest names in real estate have to say about next year's housing market. And this is information you can use if you're a buyer, seller, or investor of real estate. What's going to happen in 2024? Let's take a look. Okay, housing prediction number one is from Zillow.com. Zillow back in August actually released a forecast for 2024 calling for a 6.5% increase in home values for next year. However, since then, they've crawfished backwards and now they're predicting a drop in home values of 0.2%. So a negative growth, or in other words, a drop in home values is what Zillow's calling for. Okay, so let's find out what Zillow has to say about the negative 0.2% drop in prices they're predicting for next year. So they say Zillow's latest forecast calls for home values to hold steady in 2024, falling 0.2%. Predicting how mortgage rates will move is nearly an impossible task, but recent inflation news gives the impression that rates are likely to hold fairly steady as well in the coming months. Taken together, the cost of buying a home looks to be on track to level off next year, with the possibility of costs falling if mortgage rates do. That would give time for wages and buyers' savings to catch back up. Welcome news after the rapid rise in housing costs over the past 2 years. Wage growth has held strong, meaning the share of income spent on a mortgage will fall next year, even if costs remain the same. So a lot of these models are banking on the fact that inventory is probably going to increase as rates fall. So their theory, Zillow's theory, and others you're going to see today are theorizing that as rates come down, demand will increase because sellers will decide to list their houses. The question is, where are these sellers going to go? They're either going to rent a house or an apartment, or they're going to buy something else. And a lot of the baby boomers out there who've been waiting to sell their house on the sideline, anxiously waiting for these interest rates to drop, I guess, are now supposedly going to list their home. But my question to everybody predicting that is, where are these folks going to move to? They got to buy something else. And if they're downsizing, they may be competing with first-time home buyers looking for the move-in ready house. That's just my take. Anyway, I'm curious what you think about Zillow's prediction. Comment below. Okay, the next prediction is from the NAR, or National Association of Realtors. NAR is typically a bullish organization, in my opinion. In other words, they usually are erring on the side of positivity when it comes to housing market predictions and the market in general, because they represent a lot of real estate professionals across the country, both agents and brokers. So because of that, they're usually bullish, but their prediction now actually for 2024 is a modest 0.7% increase in home values. So less than 1%. And I was surprised at that. I mean, they're not predicting that there's going to be a massive increase in home values. And so as bullish as they are, their forecast is pretty modest. Certainly more than Zillow's. Zillow's was negative 0.2%. Theirs is 0.7% increase. But in any case, pretty modest. I would say pretty middle of the road. And additionally, they expect a 13.5% increase in the number of houses sold. And if you've been paying attention to the real estate market, or if you're a real estate professional, you know that number of houses sold in the last couple of years has been woefully low. So a 13% increase isn't really anything great when you've been in the toilet for the last couple of years. And they say that the reason why home sales will increase is because more sellers will decide to list their homes and rebuy homes as they put their existing homes on the market. So they're pointing to the fact that these sellers are going to come off the sidelines as rates drop potentially, and then, list those houses, but then they're going to rebuy the next house. So again, that's the question that I think a lot of people are wondering, but I don't hear a lot of people addressing, is the fact that, I think at the stat is 70% of homeowners who are selling are going to rebuy. So there's a large percentage of those, demand for selling on the sideline that's going to go to the next house, because they have to go somewhere when you sell a house. You're either going to be a customer of a seller or a customer of a landlord, probably. Either way, if you're investing in real estate, both of those are probably pretty good. All right, prediction number 3 comes from someone not in the real estate business, and that's Morgan Stanley, the big investment company. So what did Morgan Stanley have to say about next year? They're predicting a drop of 3%. That's right. They're predicting that home prices, home values will actually drop by 3% in 2024. Now, they cite the following reasons for this forecast. We believe that lower mortgage rates will simultaneously spur demand as well as an increased volume of listings. While the first could exert upward pressure on home prices, the latter is a headwind. In our view, the transition off of historical lows from a listing perspective will lead prices down year over year in 2024, despite the increase in transaction volumes that we are forecasting. And this forecast makes a lot of sense. Remember that according to the Case-Shiller Home Price Index, prices went from $212,000 in December of 2019 to $312,000 in December of this year, this month. A massive, massive increase in a short period of time. So a 3% drop really isn't out of the question, right? I mean, we're not talking about a 30% drop. We're talking about a 3% drop. And since home prices have increased so much over the past few years, a drop of 3% isn't all that surprising. Morgan Stanley is using a similar theory to Zillow and NAR in that, hey, if homeowners, current homeowners, decide to list their properties and sell more so than in the past, and obviously our number of new listings and our active inventory is really in the basement, so it probably can't get any worse, right? So if they decide to list their homes, that's going to increase supply and that's going to lower prices. However, they're also careful to say that more demand will create upward pressure on prices if the supply can't keep up. But if the supply grows faster than the demand, then yeah, inventory will increase and prices will start to come down. And that's their theory behind the 3% drop. Again, comment below. I want to know, what do you think of Morgan Stanley's prediction? Now we've heard Zillow, NAR. Now we've got Morgan Stanley. All right, let's do the next one. All right, our next prediction is from CoreLogic, the economic data giant. And CoreLogic is predicting a 2.9% increase in home values for 2024. Now, it's important to note over the last 20 years, according to Resi Club and Zillow data I pulled, home market in the United States has increased about 6% annually if you average out the increases over the past 20 years. So even a 2.9% increase is fairly bearish, right? It's still not I would consider a bullish forecast. It's still underneath the historical average of home price increases. One of the interesting things about the CoreLogic information is that they are providing a list of where they think prices are at the greatest risk of crashing. They list the top 5 metros, and they're on the screen now. So you've got including Cape Coral, Florida, Youngstown, Ohio, Atlanta, West Palm Beach, Florida, and Daytona, Florida. They predict those have the biggest risk of home price declines. I'm not sure why CoreLogic is hating on Florida, but they are. So if you live in Florida, comment below. I'd love to know. Or if you live in Youngstown, I live in Ohio, but I wonder what's going on in Youngstown to cause them to say this. All right, next prediction is from Meet Kevin. Kevin is a massive real estate financial YouTube channel with millions of followers. And about a month ago, he posted a video about what he thinks is going to happen in 2024. Let's take a look.
Basically, one of two things. One, think of this as, yes, there's still uncertainty in the residential real estate market. Much of the 10 to 20% crash that we've seen in prices occurred between May of 2022 and December of 2022. In most of 2023, at least January through July, prices were increasing. Now, this does mean you have to be careful of using July, August, September comps. If you're trying to buy a property in Q4 2023, don't get screwed or misled by those summer comps because prices have come down since then. Morgan Stanley suggested we can go down another 3%. So just have patience in the real estate market, I think, is the most important thing. I don't think this market's going to run away from anybody. And I think there's plenty of time to take your time, be patient, pick the right property, and don't overpay.
And I thought what he had to say was really good, right? He is following the Morgan Stanley model of a negative 3% growth next year. However, something I thought was fantastic, and far too many people forget this, this advice, is that build in some cushion. He's saying, hey, not sure what's going to happen next year with, the world economy and interest rates and supply and demand, but it's smart to look at the Morgan Stanley model and build in a negative 3% cushion for 2024 pricing. And whatever you do, make sure you don't overpay for real estate, because we all know real estate, you make money when you buy, not when you sell. And so that caution is good, right? Don't use 2023 comp data from the summer when it was red hot to find a deal in late 2023 or moving into 2024. Build in a cushion and don't overpay, and be patient. Good advice from Kevin. Okay, let's summarize what we've seen so far from these gurus. Well, you've got Meet Kevin, -3%. Morgan Stanley, -3%. Zillow, -0.2%. Now there's 2 of them out of the 5 we heard today have positive numbers. NAR, 0.7% increase. And the biggest is from CoreLogic, 2.9% increase for an average of -1%. So the experts on average, so what we've seen today, are predicting a -1% drop in home values for next year. Now, keep in mind a few things. One, real estate is hyper local. So what you're seeing in your individual neighborhood, subdivision, county, city could vary drastically from a national perspective. These are national numbers. And it's also important to remember that home prices have increased on average 6% annually over the last 20 years, according to Zillow and Resi Club analytics data. And so keep that in mind. A -1% drop isn't the end of the world, but it's certainly not the double-digit growth we've seen, over the last few years that a lot of people have gotten used to. And this is the first video of 2 videos from the experts. And next time I'm going to go over the second group of experts and what they think is going to happen in 2024. And you don't want to miss that, because while today was pretty flat, the projections were pretty even, the next group of predictions are wildly different, and you don't want to miss that. I hope you enjoyed the video today. My name is Jason Ferrier. This channel is Ohio Real Estate. I am a real estate agent and investor here in Central Ohio. So if you need help buying, selling, investing in real estate in Ohio, give me a shout. You know the drill. Thanks for watching. See you next time.